How do you learn who you really are? It's not found in books. It's found on the battlefield. I got 50 podcasts in the next 3 weeks. It's bananas. I wasn't going this route for a long time because I've been working with clients directly for the last year and a half. I've just been not putting anything into the podcast.
Yeah.
So we're like, you know what? We're doing well now. We've got stuff going the right direction. We've helped a ton of people out of hell. Let's go ahead and share some more on the social media aspect because it's not a big priority to me.
Yeah.
And so able to go all right, let's just get some more outreach and help more people out. It's crazy how much this is blowing up. It's wild.
Yeah, man. That's good.
Yeah. So I know with you guys you guys work with vets and you guys do stuff to help out guys who are going through shit, but you guys also keep it fun and light and also have a good time too. I'd love to hear just more about your adventure and how you guys came to doing what you're doing.
All right. Well, we'll start out with the podcast. Quick back brief. I got out of the military in 2014 and I opened up a trucking company and I drove for 6 years and my mom's health kind of took a turn and she needed somebody to be there to help. And that was kind of right after the coronavirus late stages of it. And so I decided to close the business and I got offered a job in Missouri. So I moved my mom to Missouri and I'm taking care of her down here. And I got a job with my old first sergeant. He's the one that offered me a job. And we went to the local VFW, just like a lot of other vets do. And we discovered it's not the greatest place around. We were going to the meetings and we just kept waiting. We're like, okay, when are we going to do something for veterans? And they were doing some good stuff. I'm not just talking trash. They were helping out the Boy Scouts and stuff like that, but they weren't doing anything really for veterans. And so we decided to start this podcast. On the side, Doug owned a gun business, and so we were literally filming it in his gun room. And we both like to have a few beers and drink, and we need something that veterans could relate to. So that's where the name came from: two drunk dudes in a gun room. And so we did that for our first year, and we started out bringing friends and stuff like that on, and then we started branching out. We was getting nonprofits to come on and stuff like that, and then the story started getting darker and darker for some of our guests, and towards right there at the end of season 1, decided that he was just going through some things, and he just couldn't really be there to help other people until he could get himself straight. So he dropped off, and season 2 started shortly after that, and I decided I had to kind of adapt. I wasn't much of a talk solo kind of guy and just ramble on, so I needed somebody to interact with. So I started branching out, and I wanted to get more interviews on, and that's where season 2's been, man. It's just been like what you were saying earlier. We just interview after interview, and people coming on, and I do it for fun. I find people that have got interesting stories, and I just ask them if they want to come on, and we just talk and have a good time, man. I don't care really where the conversation goes, and I've noticed, a lot. So backing up just a little bit, I created an app right there towards season 1, and the app was originally designed so that if somebody wanted to reach out and talk, they could. It had you could reach our blog, you could reach our podcast, you could find resources for all the different nonprofits that's been on the show and stuff like that. And some people, they did actually use it. I've had some times where I would get woke up to my phone off and, I'd be talking to some veteran I didn't know, but by the time you're done, you feel like you know forever. And so season 2 rolls around, we start doing a whole bunch of interviews, and I kind of thank Facebook for this, because once you start doing one thing and it sees that it likes it, so it starts showing you that same thing over and over in the feed. somehow the contagion effect linked me up with Scotty Hastings. He's a musician, and next thing I know, man, I'm doing musician after musician after musician, and I was like, man, because they all had the same issues that we have as podcasters, is trying to not get swallowed up by the algorithms of all these hosts that host you, like Spotify and everything else. I mean, if you're just not Joe Rogan in the first 2 weeks, you just kind of get buried, and the only people come are the ones that you're finding to come to you. And I noticed they had that same problem, and I started thinking, man, when I got out of the military, I went into my own business. I didn't have to compete with anybody. I started my own business. I bought my first truck. I got in the truck and I started driving. Well, these veterans that are getting out of the military, they spent 15, 16 years in the military, and now they're starting their career at the end of careers of people they would have been competing against at the same time as when they went in the military. And I seen that problem became a little bit more serious than it is for me. I do this just for fun, so I don't really care if one person watches my show or 1,000. It's all the same. And at the end of the day, it's a little bit more serious for them because they've got to get their music out, and they're trying to put on the table, and they're doing it full time like you have to do if you're going to go that route to be serious. So I started playing with the idea, and I created a radio station called Gunroom Radio. And I think we're now up to, I don't even know how many artists are on there, but it's growing daily, probably 30 or 40 artists that are on there. Hundreds of songs are already on there. And we're now adding DJs to the show. And so it's just growing. And some great people have helped me. Operation Encore, I don't know if you've heard of them yet, but Operation Encore is an amazing organization, man. They invest a lot of time and money into a few people, so they only take like 3 to 5 artists a year, but they truly invest in those artists. They put them through a boot camp with a top name singer. They partnered with Zach Brown at his retreat. Um, they record 3 songs professionally out in Nashville. I mean, they put a lot of money and effort into these artists, and they're a nonprofit too. Artists don't have to pay anything for it. The only thing they ask is that when they have an event, ask that they come and play. You know, um, so yeah, they're a great organization, and they helped me out quite a bit getting the radio station going. So that's our background in a nutshell, man. I don't know how deep. I know you got a bunch of other interviews. I didn't want to go too deep.
This is your hour, man. However you want to take it. Don't worry about it, man.
All right.
No, like this is good too, because it's good to meet each other. We're both on the hustle. Man, you're a big-hearted visionary. I see that, man. Like, just to kind of backtrack a little, is Doug doing all right? Like, how's he holding up?
Yeah, he still doesn't really talk a whole lot. You
Not
know,
really.
a
You
lot
sure?
of the issues is the the VA really messed with his meds. His primary care took him off one set, and then it's been downhill since then. So
Have Doug reach out. I don't mind
I
talking.
I will try. I doubt he will, but
I doubt it.
I'll ask.
A lot of these guys, it's not until they're in like the most sincere of crisis that they'll actually take the advice. But I have a lot of veterans, man.
Yeah.
In fact, some of my main head coaches were like 17-year vets. So
Cool.
like we've gone through all the stuff with it. Even like you watch videos with Ryan, where some of our videos we have, where he's like, I was doing the VA therapy for like 15 years, man, before he was pulled me out of my shit. He's like, it's
Wow.
really tough because sometimes they just don't have the tools that they're needing for how deep they're in. But
Yeah.
when it comes to like the isolation that's happening, like it's a very normal response, but there's a way to like connect with those guys to help them like work through the med stuff and work through the parts where they're like really struggling inside. But
Mhm.
being all alone is way worse, man.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, so I know you care about the guy, and it just sucks to watch him like drowning. It's
Yeah.
when like you want to throw him a life jacket, and he's like, I don't know if I'd take it if you threw it.
Yeah. And, that's another reason why a lot of people ask why I haven't changed the name. It still says Two Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. And, yeah, it's because at some point I hope one day he comes back on. This is something that we created together. And, there ain't no need in changing it. I just tell people temporarily, you're just going to have to drink enough till you see two of us. That's until I get another one on. That's the best I can tell you. It's still going to say Two Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. So
You're a good dude, Donald.
I try, man.
No, you're doing. Like, man, I feel you from here. You got me tearing up, bro. Like you're a good dude, man.
Thank you.
Man, everything from serving your country, serving your mom, building apps, Encore, Operation Encore, building a radio station just to help people out. You're married, but you got a big heart, dude. I could feel your heart from here.
I feel like helping is also therapy in itself. You know, I didn't really care for the therapy through the VA. I tried it. Um, again, I don't. There's not all bad. The psychologist that I dealt with at the VA happens to be the same one that seen Doug, and what she's doing works great for me. It just didn't work for him. And so I'm not knocking anybody. She's got me more stable than I've been in a long time. And then you add the podcast, and I completely relate to what Doug was going through, because there was some times that it was like, man, why are we doing this? And you just kind of start putting yourself in that dark area.
It's a
And
good question though to answer. Why are
yeah,
we doing this, Doug?
and
It's actually a good question to answer, not one not to be answered.
yeah, no, I agree. And he pushed me through those times to get back on the mic and get going again. And I think every podcaster does go through that, because it does become hard. All the behind the scenes stuff, the editing and everything else. But
Mm.
um, you know, after that, I realized, you know, um, I was slowly starting to talk about things I never talked about openly on the air with people in podcasts. You know, Um, some of the things I used to have a hard time getting through, I was able to now get through them and talk about them. And I credit all that to being on podcasting and just talking. And there's nobody on the other side pushing me to do it. It's just sometimes stuff comes out and you're comfortable enough to talk about it. So I think podcasting for me is kind of my outlet, like music was for these musicians that work with us with Gunroom Radio. So
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Warrior, thank you so much for being a part of the information that we have. And you're part of our story as we are a part of yours. It's very much an honor to be able to connect with each other. If you want to know more, or you want to get started with working with me or working with our warriors so that you can begin your path to authenticity, strength, leadership, and accountability, this is the way. Together, we are way stronger. Now you get to choose. Do you go forward or keep doing what you've always done? If you stay where you're at, hey, click on some of the stuff and follow what it is. We got motivational stuff. We've got podcasts. We've got more things. Just subscribe and do the stuff, and we'll keep you updated. But if you want to start going in, start jumping into what our programs offer and start your journey and being the hero in your own story.
Man, you're awesome, dude. Like I immediately like you.
I appreciate it.
I like you immediately. Um, how can I serve you? What can I do to help, man?
Oh man, I don't know. If you know anybody that wants to help us by DJing, send them to us. So
I'll put out a thing for it. We'll put out somebody, like if anybody wants to DJ for you guys.
yeah.
Are you
So
trying to
here's
reach out to vets or trying to get people some mental health stuff, or what are we trying to do? Like, how can I
so
help?
primarily for the radio, we're looking for veterans. Um, the big goal, right, is next year I'm going to start the process. This literally just started in May. May 1st was the opening day of this. So next year I plan on pushing to turn it into a 501c. And then I want to strategically have DJs in multiple areas throughout the United States. So as these artists tour, we can go out, live stream them, and allow other veterans to be able to interact that couldn't go to the events. It's one thing you'll see people travel to go to a Garth Brooks concert. Pretty tough to get somebody to travel 2,000 miles to go to a $20 ticket type show. But with technology now, man, if we can get people that can hit these tours, then that's another thing that's live streaming. People are seeing them. That's helping them. Their music's helping other people, and that's what it's about. And that doesn't even include all the nonprofits that go along with that. So like you got Hero Stock and Guitars for and all these other organizations that deal more with the PTSD and stuff like that than I do, but they're all part of this music industry, which once you get involved in it, you start coming across. There's been a lot of people have reached out through us to Guitars for Vets because they just wanted to learn how to play a guitar, and they've got an amazing program. You get 10 free lessons, and after you graduate, you get a free guitar. It's donated by Donner, I think it is, and it's more than that because you become interacting with your instructor and whatever it is that you want to talk about, because we're not talking about an hour lesson. We're talking about some of these guys are on for 3 to 6 hours. They only have to do an hour, but a lot of those instructors are just there listening, and a lesson may last 3 or 4 hours. So, I mean, it's a great program, and I think that type of stuff is where it's important, So, like the other thing we do for our advertisements, I don't really go out looking for people that want to advertise on our radio station. Part of that is because it's not about the money. The radio station needs to make just enough money to run itself, and that's really all it needs, because the licensing companies take so much anyways, just putting money in their pockets anyways. So enough to cover the business, the licensing, and it's good, which ain't a lot. You're talking probably $3,000 or $4,000 a year is really all it needs, So that's my goal, is to turn it into a 501c so that we can get some bigger donations, and then we can start paying for these DJs that are working with us to actually go to concerts, meet with the artists, get to know them, know their story. A lot of these artists have amazing stories, like Scotty Hastings, Purple Heart recipient, shot 10 times in Afghanistan. He's an ambassador for Guitars for Vets. You got Sal Gonzalez, that is a spokesperson for the Wounded Warrior Project. He lost his left leg in Ramadi, and this just goes on and on, from people that didn't even have those kinds of injuries. They just had, issues coming back and adjusting. But the one thing you'll notice, man, all their music is relatable to somebody that was in the military service. Not even just around, spouses, kids that grew up behind those scenes, and people relate to it. I've heard so many people come up to me and say, "Man, that song really hit me." Well, that's somebody's life story. It's not my life story. I'm just playing it for you. That's somebody else's life story. They sat down, they wrote it because that's how they felt. That's what they were doing. That's what they seen. This ain't just somebody that's putting on a pair of jeans and a cowboy hat because they want to look the look to sell tickets. These people are writing about their events and what's happened, what they experienced. So I think that's the bigger mission, man, is just to get it out there. And it starts by, one, getting people to listen, which you need the DJs to interact with people, and so that it's not just sounding like a playlist that's just recording music over and over and over. You have some live interaction, and it takes time for it to grow as anything, and a little bit of motivation just to keep it going. So yeah, I mean that's where it's at in a nutshell. You know.
Pretty badass in that job.
I love doing it. So Brian goes. He has a show called Chow with Brian. He does a lunch show from 12 to 3 Mondays and Wednesdays. I had a lady. She's going to start DJing with us here in a couple weeks. Her name's Sugar Rose, military spouse, and awesome lady. And she's also a musician. She's got some songs recorded out there. And then I do Friday nights, Saturday from 7 to 8. I dedicate that to Operation Encore. So I only play the songs from the artists that went through their program, and it's because they helped me so much to put this together that I dedicate that time. It's all veterans music, but I call it Veteran Hour because they didn't want me to label it as Operation Encore Hour or anything like that. They wanted it still for the veterans. So I did that, and then from 8 to usually whenever I get tired. So sometime after 10 or 11, I do a thing called Sharing Bourbon, and people can get on Facebook and request songs or whatever, send shout outs to people or whatever, and I'll play it over the air for them, and it's just a way to build some camaraderie and everybody to get together and just have a good time and listen to music. So and then like all of our advertisements that I use are from the 501(c)s that came on our program. So like Hero Stock, 22 Mohawks, She's the Veteran. I made commercials for each of their organizations, and that's what I play for, our advertisements and our commercials, So it's free airtime for them, and it helps them.
I gotta say, dude, it's an honor to meet you, man. Like I see what you're doing, and it's hard what you're doing, but you're doing visionary stuff, and it's tough too without like a good integrator because it puts everything on you. Like you're trying to just sort it all out, but it's
Yeah.
hard, man. I did it for years.
Yeah.
Like before I had an integrator running my back end, you saw Randy and we reached out to that. Like
Yeah.
she schedules all the stuff and she moves all the pieces. But before that, I'm running multiple groups and working with all these people and trying to do the social media and
Yeah.
the emails. And I'm like, I'm losing my mind.
Oh, it is
You to do
tough,
what you're
man.
doing, man.
Yeah,
Like,
and like so like another thing we do is we run every week I run a poll out there for people to vote, right? And I run a top 20 board for every week. At the end of the month, and every Sunday I play the top 20. So it's on loop from 5 in the morning to 1400, and then I do is I add the votes up. Whoever's the number one song at the end of the month gets a coin that I'm buying these coins, old challenge coins that say Gunroom Radio number one song, and I'm giving that to the artist for having the number one song that's just decided. And then at the end of the year, December 31st, we're going to do a top 100. But what a lot of people don't understand is everything you say is edited. So I can't just sit here and record and just play it. So every time, like the number 20 song by Derek Thomas is Gunroom Radio. And then I have to edit that. And then I have to upload it to the station. And so, yeah, there's a lot of time that goes into it. I literally spend probably 8 to 9 hours on a weekend on Saturdays getting the show ready for next week. Yeah, it's a lot of work, man.
yeah, I see your sacrifice, dude. That's awesome. Really good, man. That's really cool. When do you record your podcast? When do you do that part?
So I do them live through StreamYard on Wednesdays and Fridays. So
What time?
My Wednesday show is at 7 Central, and then Fridays is 7 Central as well. And Fridays is if a guest. I kind of use that as the backup day in case somebody just Wednesdays don't work for them. So there's not one every Friday. Wednesdays is my every week podcast, and then sometimes some weeks there's two.
When's your next open Wednesday?
Let me look.
If it's okay,
No,
I'd like to jump on. I may even bring one of my vets on with me.
yeah, absolutely, man. I believe it is August 16th.
7 p.m. August
Yep.
16th.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Okay.
What I'll do is I'll send you my calendar after this, and then you can just sign up for that date, and that way it'll automatically send you the email for the links and all that stuff.
Let's do it. I would love to support you in any way that I can. I think that what you're doing, man, it just feels right. I think that you're doing like this is God working through you, and it's God doesn't ask easy things, man. This is a hard
Yeah.
job. This is not easy to do, but I think that like it feels like everything you're doing feels right, man.
And that's what I said. So I'll tell you a funny story, right? And how Operation Encore kind of really came into this. So when I did this, my mind starts thinking faster than reality catches me. And I was like, man, these guys are having the same problems. I said, why don't they have their own platform? So I started looking around and saying, oh, well, you can $39.95 a month. You can have a radio station. No big deal. I'll just pay for the radio station and they'll give me their music and we'll just play it. No big deal. Well, I didn't know nothing about how the pros work for performing rights organizations like ASCAP and BMI and I don't even know who the third one is. Most people don't use the third one. But so when I went to start this and then I started looking into it, man, there became a lot more red tape. And I literally got to the point where I was like, because I didn't want another business. I really didn't. I just got done selling my last semi, and that was the end of, finally the business was closed at that point. And it took me like 2 years to get all that stuff done and over with. And I was like, I really don't. I enjoy going to work, coming home, and being me. I don't have to figure out the business when I come home from work. And so I really didn't know, man. So when I reached out to Operation Encore because I didn't want to start all this if I wasn't going to have music to play or any support. I started asking them questions to see if they would want to partner with me and kind of help me out. And all he said to me was, he's like, I'm going to send you a bunch of information. He said, I want you to read it, take a couple weeks to digest it. And he said, then we'll talk. He said, well, this is exactly what we've been looking for. He said, we've spent 2 years talking to radio stations and trying to get them to dedicate 1 hour to nothing but vetting, and they won't do it. He said, nobody will do it. So that stuck in my head when he said that, man. You're asking radio stations to give up 1 hour out of 24, not even telling them you can't play your advertisements. We want you dedicated to just veterans playing music, and they wouldn't do it. And the more I started looking into it, man, that's exactly what they need. They need a platform where they don't compete to kind of even the playing field a little bit, because especially if you did 20 years, there's a guy that named Robert DePrado. He's getting out, 20 years service, all special forces from basic training on. He went to selection and became a Green Beret, and that's a tough life, man, for 20 years. And he's now getting ready to come out and do it. So you think about it, he's probably 39 or 40, 41. There's not a whole lot of labels out there that are out there actively looking for people that age, you know. So it's tougher on them. And I think it's important that they do have a platform that they feel a part of and can perform and they're just having fun and not necessarily having to compete all the time, you know. And I'm glad I did it because I was really on the verge of not doing it because of how, and since then it has, just like you said, it has felt right. And I do believe that God is kind of pushing me into that direction.
Yeah, God does not ask easy things, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
That's awesome. And like, it's tough on those guys too, man. It's
It
tough.
is.
Like, I got those guys who have been doing it their whole life and then they get out, and like the amount of loss that happens when these guys get out, like the loss, it's astronomical. It's
Yeah.
full blown. It's everything they were, every identity they ever had, everything they were ever told. Want to know what the hardest things, and you probably know this. What do I do now? Because someone's been telling me what to do my whole life.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
a real problem.
Yep.
Like, I
Yeah.
was always given the mission. I was told where I'm supposed to be. This is what time you're supposed to get up. This is where you're supposed to be at this time. This is when mission briefing is. This is what the operation's going to be. Here's where your is. Like, you were told what to do every day.
Yeah. And I think, that's a big deal too, because so when I started that trucking company, I started it literally because I had no other options. 2008, that depression that, or whatever you want to call it, while I was in, I didn't notice it. I got the same paycheck. I dealt with on base stuff, money, the price of things stayed the same. There really wasn't much change. Even the fuel on base was cheaper than off base. You just started using stuff on base. And so you don't notice that type of stuff, man. And when I got out, I picked a great place to retire, a shitty place to find a job, you know. And it's a great place to raise kids. My house was, cheap, and man, I loved it. I couldn't find work. So I decided, because now that the Ford dealership closed, the Chevy dealership moved out of town, the Dodge dealership closed down, and all the mom and pops that were feeling the burden on trying to get customers, they weren't even hiring mechanics anymore. They were doing the work themselves because they couldn't give up 50% of the labor, So I didn't have any choice. I reached out to a buddy of mine. We were standing in a Walmart parking lot, and he was struggling he'd just gotten out too, right before me, and he was struggling to find a job. And I seen a truck driver. I said, dude, why don't we just go get our CDL and go drive truck? And he said, I'm down if you are. And that's what we did. We went to college, paid to get the schooling, got our degree, and we both signed up to go. We were going to team with Schneider pulling chemicals. And a week before we were to leave, he got a letter in the mail from Georgia saying they were suspending his driver's license for child support. And I was like, man, am I just hated? But again, I believe that things happen for a reason, and God puts you in a path for a reason. And what that did, because I then contacted Schneider and said, hey, I don't have a partner to drive. Can you guys give me one? And they said, well, no, we don't do that. You'll have to find your own team driver. You can still drive as a solo driver. Well, I said, well, what do they make? And they told me it was like $500 a week. And I was like, so why would I take that when I can't even cover my bills on that? Now I can't even get a second job because I'm out on the road. I said, that ain't going to work for me. And so another opportunity opened after that to where I was able to buy a truck and go into business for myself. And I have, even though it was times and probably mentally I wasn't stable enough to do it. I was still going through a lot of trauma at that time. And I still made it through it, and it put me on a path to get some help. And then it's led to here. So I wouldn't change anything, no matter how long it took me to finally get help, I still wouldn't change it because the end of the path has been well worth the journey,
Yeah, it just opened up a whole new journey.
Yeah.
One thing
Yeah.
I've noticed with the guys, we had another veteran just joined us this like 2 days ago. He just jumped in and he was noticing all the other guys, and they were telling him like, they're like, listen, man, when you're in service, like when you're there, like the life there is like that's a thing. Like you get the brothers, you got a job, you have a mission, you have a thing.
Yep.
Like you're important. There's a reason you're there, and all the
Yep.
people you see every day and all the stuff, and in one day that's all gone. And they said the reason that they're with the Warriors way is because like this isn't Uh, we're not big on like some groups are like spirit hugs and
Yeah.
like trust walks and shit. I'm like, we don't do that stuff. No, we do real fucking hard ass work, and we
Yeah.
do the real training to do this, get this thing right, weapons to be able to fight, depression and doubt and anxiety and fear and like going through the feeling completely isolated and alone and giving you a brotherhood. And the guys told them, they're like, it's the closest thing to being in service, man. This
Yeah.
is the closest thing to a brotherhood where the guys really have each other's back. But each guy here is also not stunted by like, you have a mission, so you don't work on you. Each guy here is trying to be the best dad, best
Yep.
man, best husband, and we all lean on each other. And we don't collab as like I'm the alpha and everyone's my troop.
Right.
It's alphas collaborating because we all have our own pack. And so
Yeah.
we just collectively put all of the leadership mindset together, almost like black box mentality. We put all of it together and then we all lead with best practices and support each other through like thick and thin. And so we've had a lot of really powerful moments, especially the guys who serve. I'll do a shout out to Dan Jarvis. He owns a company called 220. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I haven't.
Dude, he's amazing. So I operate more in cognitive behavioral and go into the cognitive work. How do I help you with the choices that you make and how to see things as you're like in the moment?
Mm-hmm.
He does neuro-linguistic programming, and this is where he helps people, like anybody who's first responder or served. He just takes care of the bill. And he has had people, they don't call it PTSD, they call it PTS because they've been able to break PTSD as short as minutes to 48 hours. He's like, he is a master with neuro-linguistics. And so like he helps break the trigger to the neural connection to makes it so people go into like, I'm back in that moment again. Like he can sever that and then replace those thoughts with something that's positive, and he's a master at it. And so I send my veterans there to break the PTSD trigger, and then I help them with the long work. So that way they can stay with it, and it keeps, I can awareness and know exactly the tools of when this happens. I know how to handle my anger. I know how to handle, doubt and fear and excuses, distractions, addiction, depression. I've got tools now. I know how to do it. I'm trained. And so, some of these resources that we do for our veterans, we just know the struggles, man. But I'll also give a shout out to Phil, who's one of our guys too. And he started a nighttime group. And it actually become kind of funny because it off is kind of like him goofing around.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'll just make a nighttime group. And they call it the Order of the Flaming Elmo. The reason why is it started off with a gift that was like Elmo with fire behind him. He's like, that means I'm starting a group. Let's go. And like, it just turned into an inside joke. So I'm like, it's not very Warriors way, but we're keeping it. So
yeah, man.
We've even had guys who come in, and I used to have to do those suicide calls. Like I'm the only one who would take those calls because of the liability. And I would probably have a suicide call where one of my warriors was sitting next to a gun, probably every couple weeks.
Wow.
And since Phil has been running one of these groups, there's been a place where they belong. They're valuable. They can just talk and hang. And most of the time, the Elmos group is fucking hilarious. They're all warriors, and I've trained them all to be able to go into combat here. They've fought things. They've beaten doubt and fears and anxiety. They've beaten these things with me. But then they get together and they can talk about trucks and fishing or music or play Call of Duty or whatever you want. Just you're not alone anymore, man.
Yeah.
And since he's built that group, it's just inside of our training that we do. Since that's happened, I haven't had any suicide calls.
That's awesome, man.
There's
That
a
is
place
awesome
for the guys to go. Just, dude, you belong. Like, we want you here. You're not fucking crazy. If you need to go into battle, we can go into battle. But if you just need a place so you feel like you're not all alone, isolation is one of the fucking biggest killers for our people.
Yeah. Have you heard of 22 Mohawks?
I haven't heard of the Mohawks one, no.
So I get real, I don't know. It's a kind of a pet peeve, I guess. I get this when people start talking about service dogs. I gotta go get a service dog. I need a service dog. And I came across this group called 22 Mohawks. And I just gotten done with a 2-hour podcast with a guy that knows a ton about service dogs. And he was very pro service dog, right? And I've always felt like there's a lot of people that are just using it. And that a lot of times what you really need is a companion, just somebody you're not alone with. And I can relate to this because the worst thing that I could have done for myself, I did. And that was I put myself in a truck for 6 weeks at a time, driving 650 miles a day by myself, thinking. And then you stop, you get up, you go in the truck stop, you eat by yourself, you get up, you go to your truck, and you could die in that truck and ain't nobody going to know for weeks because nobody cares. And that's the mentality that you start getting into. And I decided finally one day, by luck, my son's dog got pregnant. She was outside and she got pregnant and she had 13 puppies. And I was like, well, I've been thinking about putting a dog in the truck with me. I said, it gets pretty damn lonely out here. And I did. And me and her are like best friends. And she's probably the furthest from a service dog that you would ever find, And I thought, I same mentality. I was like, well, maybe I can get her trained to become a service dog. And I discovered what I really needed was a companion. I needed friendship. And 22 Mohawks, what they do is they work with the local rescues and a veteran who wants a dog as a companion. They link the dog and the veteran up. They pay for the training, as in like obedience training, and they teach the veteran how to take care of it and those types of training, not like service dog training, the basic commands, sit, stay, shake, roll over, those types of things. And they teach them obedience so they're not jumping up on people and stuff like that. There's no certifications, nothing. Once they graduate, they own the dog. Until they graduate the class, the dog belongs to 22 Mohawks. And people are coming from all over the United States driving dogs to donate them to them because of what they're doing. And I don't know the numbers, and I really don't, but I would imagine there's probably a lot of people out there that thought they needed a service dog and found out that they were just lonely and they just really needed a companion. So I think that isolating is definitely that's the first thing. That's where the darkness is now. Says, okay, now I can work because you're alone. There's nobody to tell you that I'm wrong. And that's exactly how it starts. So I think I like what they're doing because they're not out there just trying to be another for-profit. Train your dog, get your license. You can take your dog to any hotel you want, and people are just paying for this crap, and they're not getting anything out of it. To where when people are really probably, if nothing else, it's not curing nothing other than maybe loneliness, which will help with depression.
It does help.
So
this is where like the team up for all of us. And this is, like I said, there's some good people out there. There's guys like you, guys like people like the 22 Mohawk or Dan Jarvis and all the people that you mentioned, for the singers to the radio stations to everything. There's people who see it, and there's people, then they know this too. We know we're the first line of defense, but we're also the last line of defense. We're it. And so we know this. It's a pretty important thing. And like, I think all of us working together, this is why I'm happy to jump on with you, happy to support you. Because while you're right, the dogs won't cure anything, but I help them cure them things. I go in and we fix it. There are steps that can be done, and it's been working with veteran after veteran where they don't need the medication. There is a belong still. You still have a brotherhood. You are important and valued. There is a purpose for you, and you do not have to stay waking up in the middle of the night like feeling like you're still in the middle of it.
And that our season 1, that was our motto. Our goal is to get you to laugh today so you can live to see tomorrow. And the thought process behind that was, I may not know today who can help you, but you never know who's coming on the show tomorrow, and maybe they know. And that's all we were, was a hub, man. Just, if you need something, let me reach out and find that prophet that can help you.
I see you, bro.
And that's exactly, I think that's a, a big thing, so if the dog keeps somebody alive long enough till they discover you and can get it fixed, well, then that dog served its purpose.
Yeah. Right there with you, dude. That's awesome. Then, however I can support you, I will.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
For real. And like, even if like, 'cause if it's okay with you, like, I think that this is what you've shared today, just for the hope or information or understanding what's happening behind the scenes. I would like to be able to share this, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Because I think that your journey, your battle, your mission is highly noble and
I appreciate
very,
it, man.
very worth sharing.
I appreciate it. Yeah. You use it however you like, brother. I'm an open book, man. So
Yeah. I support you. Like, whatever you need. You just, I'm happy to be on in August. Anything that I can do to support you in any other way, let me know. But
okay.
Bro, like, I see you, man. And like, your heart is huge.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
I see you, man. Like, that's a good dude right there. Like, full honors, man. Like, it is, I'm proud to just meet you. Like, I never know how these conversations will go, but dude, I see you, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
You're on the mission. Like, you're doing the right thing. And if you ever get jammed up, like in here, if you get jammed in here, like, dude, what the fuck am I fucking doing? Like, there's so much pressure, so much stress, everything's going wrong, this is going messed up. Reach out, dude.
Will do.
Like,
absolutely.
Like, reach out. I've got your back.
I appreciate it, man.
Help you with that battle. Like, you don't have to be alone on that one. Like, just reach out. I got you.
Okay. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll plug you in. I'm gonna text you in a little bit, so you just have my direct number. If you ever get jammed up, bro, you just let me know.
Sounds great, brother. Will do.
Yeah. So let's record. Let's go out there in the future. Let's plan on. We're gonna be on. Looks like it's August 16th. Is that right?
Yep.
Need to be on, and I'll post it also on the Battlefield of the Mind. So I'll make sure that you're posted on our stuff and we're posted on yours. And it's going to be whatever you need until then. Just let me know, and then I'll definitely be hanging with you then.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. And just, if Doug wants to talk, no pressure, no nonsense. If he's like, man, I'm in a dark way. Like, I got the guys. Like, we'll help you. We'll help you go through the battles. And so it's tough when you watch a brother drowning and you can't do anything about it. I know that for sure.
I will reach out to him, brother.
Awesome, man. You're my dude. Awesome. I will talk to you later, and I'll text you in a minute, okay?
Sounds great, man. You take care.
You too, Don. Later.
Click on the button, and you can become the hero in your own story. It's time to start making the choices to change, and the evolution that you're going to do begins with choosing the next step. This is the way, and together, we're always stronger.